Alright, all systems are go. Hello, hello. Sorry about the wait, my friends, but welcome to Night Rights. This is our nearly weekend writing retreat. I'm your host, Jax Wolff. If you've never been to a Night Rights before, welcome. It's pretty simple. We have an open chat. You can write whatever you'd like in it, so long as it doesn't violate YouTube's TOS. Just click on that link if you're on Blue Sky and navigate straight to YouTube. The experience is far better than just watching it on your dashboard. What you do is, inside that stream, you type in words, I read them and respond to them. Or you can chat amongst yourselves. They're usually pretty chill people here. You don't have to talk to me if you don't want to. Hello, Oakleaf. Welcome. Glad you can make it despite being here sleepily. Excuse the usual spiel. I'm sure that at some point I won't have to do this, but I know that some people are probably watching this exclusively on the little window in Blue Sky. So, where were we? Right. Type in chat, I read words, I respond to words, it's all good, we all have conversations together, we go off on tangents, it's fun. Around 8:30, we start in on the main event of the night, which is usually, if I'm not actually editing a book, which I'm not right now, word sprints. Those are 20-minute periods of complete productivity, where you sit down, and if you're writing, you write. If you're editing, you edit. If you're doing anything else, you do anything else. And at the very end, we pause for about 15 minutes, oftentimes more. And first thing that we do is we read off our word counts. For writers, that's easy. That's just your word count. For editors, I personally consider it to be your word count, as in how many words you've read. But if you feel like that's not right, you can definitely just figure it however you like. If you're doing anything else, you could just tell us what you've been doing that entire 20-minute period. And then at the end of 15 minutes or more, we go at it again. We do that 3 times in the night, and we just hang out and have a good time together. Companion Wolf, hello, welcome. Glad to see familiar faces trickling in. As always, we also have an icebreaker of the night. The icebreaker is just a little question of the day. You will see it on the left side of your screen. It's a different question every night, and it's designed to help you start chattering if you're a shy boy or shy girl or shy whatever, just to warm up to the group. Tonight's icebreaker, because it is the first Friday the 13th that we've ever done this on, somehow. The question of the night is, what's one superstition in your work-in-progress's world, good or bad? Oakleaf has popped in with an answer already. I love this so much. I am so glad that somebody else has, so I don't have to talk about myself first. Oakleaf says, icebreaker answer, don't follow lights in this forest. If you think you see a campfire in the woods, no you don't. If the light moves, you move the opposite direction. That is an intelligent move right there, because you do not fuck with the fairies. Oakleaf also says it's a valid superstition. There really are fae things in the woods, and while some are friendly, you can't be sure. That is also very true of fae lore in general, but I am so delighted to see somebody actually bring that up in story. Because, I don't know, I've been on Tumblr long enough to see all the fun fae lore, and to me it's always kind of, horrifying, but also hilarious. Don't give any information to the fae. Don't give your name to the fae, because they will take it unless you're trans. Then give your dead name or something like that. And never walk into fairy circles, because you will be isekai'd. Weird shit happens in the woods. It's all good. I love it. I eat that stuff up so much, and I am here for this superstition. Now the question is, do your MCs follow this superstition? Most people, Oakleaf says, most people have forgotten why you don't follow lights. They don't really believe in the Fae anymore, but they still remember the rule. I also like that too, because like that is also kind of like true to how superstition works. Like, do we remember why it's bad luck to break mirrors? No, we don't. Do we remember why black cats are supposed to be bad luck? Probably not. But those things are bad luck. So it's also kind of like, I love the fact that there's something built in to age the superstitions in your world. Just adds that little bit of spice in there. Okay, it says MC is the MC because of course he did. MC is the MC because he followed the lights. Of course he did. I love it whenever your children do the stupid thing and then they fuck around and find out, basically. It's great. And honestly, that's what MCs are there for. They fuck around and they find out. But, yes. And in short, I love this. I love everything in that answer. Please definitely, Companion, if you have something, please let us know. You are writing baseball fanfiction, and I'm sure that's hilarious, and there are some hilarious things going on in there. Other than that, I hope that there are other people. People have been, like, liking the post on Blue Sky, so probably. But, oh... Chat just finally updated. So Companion Wolf says, sorry if I'm quiet tonight. Day 4 of a cold. I am seconding Oakleaf's get well soon. Cold. It is cold season. I know. But it still sucks. I mean, especially like you don't get to have fun. It's just like you lie in bed. So, in short, I am sending you so much love, Companion Wolf. Please hydrate yourself, and please rest up. I hope that you're just here vibing with us. You know, sit back, relax. I'm hoping that the chill tunes are chill tunes for you. If you need to take a nap, feel free. Just take care of yourself, my dude. Oakleaf says, it's okay, he found the friendly ones. One should hope so, anyway. Command Wolf says, thank you, I'm hydrating, LOL. Excellent. Keep on hydrating. You are not seeing my fist shake at you. It is out of love. It's a love fist shake, but hydrate. Drink that tea, drink that water, drink that orange juice, whatever you have on hand. Companion Wolf also says, I'm trying to understand what a lyric game is in the context of tabletop games and how to write one. I have never heard of a lyric game at all. Is this something that I should be Googling right now? Alternatively, please feel free to info dump on us. We do have 10 minutes until, well, 13 minutes and 13 minutes exactly. Happy Friday the 13th, by the way, everybody. We do have 13 minutes until the first sprint goes off, so please feel free to fill it. Otherwise, I will ramble about superstitions. Because quite honestly, like, personally, I'm not actually superstitious. Well, I'm a little bit superstitious. Like, I have a very Jewish approach to superstition. Like, you can talk about bad luck all you want, but if you want something to happen, do not speak into the do not talk about it, because then it will never happen. Like, if you are sure that you got this one, if you're sure that like you nailed a grade, or you nailed a test, or whatever, or you made a great impression, or what have you, do not talk about it, because chances are you actually shat the bed. as they say. I am so sorry for my sailor mouth tonight, but that is how it goes. But that is also why I do not gamble, because I don't want to say if this is actually a Jewish thing, because I don't know if it actually is a Jewish thing, but bad luck is very much a fun thing that I very much believe in. And you do not tempt fate, is in other words. So, if you put a quarter in the slot machine, you might as well expect not getting it back. But, Companion Wolf says, it's hard to describe them. They're usually part poetry and not always meant to be played, just read. Let me find an example for you. This game is a message by damsels. This game is a message by damsels and dice on itch that don't speak or it won't happen as a Jewish thing. I do that. Okay, so it probably is a cultural thing, because like I might have heard that's a Jewish thing, but what my family says is a Jewish thing is often like, what the fuck are you talking about? And occasionally it actually is a Jewish thing. Or it's a Jewish thing, but none of us acknowledge it as a Jewish thing. Oakleaf says Kinehora, as they say. Lena Cat, hello, hello. But yeah, basically. So, I am also looking up all those games just like on the side. Yiddish for warding off the evil eye? Yes. I definitely mispronounced that though, because I've only read that word, not actually. And it's been literal years since I've actually taken an ounce of Hebrew, and I am ashamed to my ancestors. Let's see. But I do know what you mean. Let's see. This game is a message. There it is. Ooh. I might have to actually take a look at that. But thank you for the recommendations, Companion Wolf. And Jewish High Five. Jewish High Five from Oakleaf. Hell yeah, Jewish High Five. Oakleaf says, I know like a handful of Yiddish and that's it. Same here. I just want to also point out the fact that the auto-captioning system that I'm using just said, just substituted beautician in for Jewish. Which either means I need to enunciate better or wow. But anyway, back to the chat. I also know only a handful of Yiddish, but that's mostly because my grandmother had started teaching me, and she did teach me a few things. But the problem is, I have an older brother, and this is also why my mother never taught me Kampangan, despite the fact that she speaks it fluently and speaks it quite frequently, and you know, she's literally from the islands and everything. But I have an older brother, and my grandmother, may she, has passed on, and I guess may she rest in peace, but that's complicated, we won't get into it. She used to think it was funny to speak to or teach my brother Yiddish for the sole purpose of confusing him. I do not know what that actually means, but apparently my brother struggled with 3 different languages growing as a very young child, because my mother was earnestly trying to teach him Tagalog / Kapampangan. He was learning English because we live in the United States, and my grandmother is an asshole. But yeah, that is the story, apparently. Or at least it's the story that my mother is going with for why she never taught my brother or me Kapampangan at all. Like, the two of us are the only two in the family who, and among the cousins who are not fluent in either language. They are both technically separate languages. Which gets even more complicated, but yes. Oakleaf says we're all beauticians now. You know, I'd insert a joke about the nanny here. Or, Fran Fine, right? That's not what her... Fran Drescher. I would make a joke about Fran Drescher here, but I think we all know where that's going. Oakleaf says it was my grandparents' first language, but they never taught my mom. See, that one's also sad. Because, like... I mean, I also kind of feel it, because, like, it's the same kind of situation with my mom. Like, my dad is straight up American, obviously, because he's Jewish. He was born and raised in the United States, or slash any place with an actual Jewish population, considering Philippines. But my mom, you know, she's from the Philippines. She came here in the 80s, and she struggled fitting in because my dad immediately took her to a very white part of the United States. But she never taught her children for varying reasons over the years. But it is, in a way, a little bit sad because I don't feel that connection, the sort of connection that my cousins feel with their parents and their heritage and whatnot. And I'd imagine, you know, so I can kind of feel a little bit of sympathy for your mom, not gonna lie. Oakley says, what the fuck, grandma? Companion Wolf says, your grandma sounds like a chaos being. Yeah, she was. There are stories. It's not even like she was like a spitfire old lady. No, she was kind of like a dick and a Karen to everybody. She a lot of people in the family, there were people in the family who loved her, and then there were people of the family who hated her. And the second one often outweighed the first. And she was a chatterbox. And she loved mahjong, but also cheated at it, which meant that she made wonderful friends over the years. And I could go on. Meanwhile, my grandfather, her husband, has always been taciturn. He's also not with us, and in fact, genuinely rest in peace to that man, because he was very sweet and intelligent and extremely patient. But that's what's going on. But yeah, I started in on talking about luck and whatnot, but when it comes to Friday the 13th, like, I don't really see it as particularly unlucky. It is another day. I mean, I did accidentally stab myself with a yogurt lid today, and that is something that you take talent doing. Other than that, you know, it's kind of like a chill day, but it's... You joke about it. It's Friday the 13th. Woo-woo. But, yeah, I guess just to answer the icebreaker very quickly on my end because we have 2 minutes left. I could talk about superstitions in TNS. There are superstitions. In Southwind, for example, because Chanticleer, the rooster that had been ascended to godhood by accident while his master, Josiah Martin, accidentally cursed his entire family, very long story, because Chanticleer is the god of serendipity specifically, there are many superstitions that surround pleasing roosters. So you put out chicken feed if you want something lucky to happen because you're trying to attract Chanticleer. It is very cute, and I love this little piece of lore. I love Chanticleer as a character in general. Eleanor thinks it's hilarious, but is skeptical of the entire tradition, but still has brought it to Eldiven and used it whenever she wanted to do well on tests. Nick adamantly does not believe in it, which is ironic because Chanticleer exists and favors Nick out of all of the siblings. Oakley says, Luck Rooster continues to delight me. I am also delighted by this. I hope that people like Chanticleer whenever the book actually comes out, because yes, Chanticleer does appear. Chanticleer appears specifically in the prologue, but he'll appear more often in the second and third book, I promise. But he's a very adorable little rooster, and we love him. Anyway, it is 8:30, so let us prepare for the first sprint of the night. For me, I am transcribing, but please talk about what you guys are working on, or if you have yet to answer the icebreaker of the night, feel free to drop that in. Companion Wolff, you better be resting. No, I'm kidding. If you're still working on that TTRPG, that is valid. Please feel free to let us know what specifically you will be working on, if you feel up for it. Other than that, we'll begin in a couple of minutes, so feel free to bring out your docs. Companion Wolff says, I'm making hot chocolate E. I admire that. Make that hot chocolate. It is delicious. I have my own hot chocolate here. And, you know, it is technically hydration, especially if you're making it with water, which is technically incorrect, but I mean, never figured out whether or not I grew up thinking that milk was bad for colds because it activates, like, it makes you mucousy and whatnot, or at least it does for me. As an adult, I should probably look into whether or not that's an actual thing. But in any case, take care of yourself. I do hope you are actually drinking some kind of water-based thing. Oakleaf says, trying to get out of this plot beat so I can get back to vibes, lol. That is definitely a mood. Leocat says, I'm actually unsure what I should work on. I basically blew up my outline and the idea of what I was working on and still trying to kind of piece it all back together. Honestly, that's a valid thing to work on right now. Like, if you need to re-outline, like, maybe just sort of like take the first 20 minutes to pull your thoughts together and dive into the first leg of an outline. Like, jotting down notes from where you are and spiraling out to wherever feels natural as a continuation. That's an option, at least. But overall, like, I totally understand. Like, sometimes outlines are just suggestions that you immediately toss out a window. Cut says, I've been trying to figure out how to re-outline because basically I'm adding another POV, to what was supposed to be a single POV piece. Yikes. That is a complicated thing, or that's a complicated issue to tackle. Like, I feel like at that point, it's like redoing the outline from scratch and seeing what happens. Like, it depends, I guess, on whether or not you can slide the POV in at this point, or if you need to go back and add in chapters with that POV. With that new POV. That is complicated. But, at the very least, these are little periods where you can sit down and jot down notes and see what makes sense. Like, definitely, like, shake up that puzzle box of jigsaw puzzle pieces and see what happens. I'm really excited to see what your progress reports will be like on those 15-minute beats. And on that note, it is 8:35 right now. So it is a nice round number and a good time to start. So if you aren't already at your docs or notebooks, crack those open and wiggle your fingers. Get out that tension. Take a deep breath as usual and get in the zone. I wish all of you the best of luck because we are starting in 1, 2, and 3. Good luck! It says, I'm thinking I might zero draft fill in some things in between what I've already written. That's a good strategy, actually. At the very least, it helps you experiment and see what happens, for sure. Anyway, I will let you guys write. Alright, that is the first of 3 sprints. How did we do? Let's see. 502 words on my end, which isn't bad. It is mostly transcribing, as I mentioned. Some bits I'm refining on the go, but not too bad so far. How about the rest of you? Oakleaf responded to Lenacat, by the way, saying zero drafting when I don't know where I'm going to is usually how I find my way to. It's a really effective strategy, to be honest. Like, the fun thing about zero drafting is, like, they're just little nuggets that you kind of just sort of slide in wherever you need them to. And combine that with Scrivener, where you can do that literally, it's like, it's very easy. Yes. Caption bot, what the fuck is Scrivener? What the fuck? I feel like it's making words up now. I'm so sorry if you're hard of hearing and reading the captions. I need to learn how to add captions to a live stream at some point. But Leakit says, I did not notice the time stop. Totally a-okay. Reporting in, I'm at the 334, which is actually really good for somebody who is piecing things together. So I applaud that. Has the sprint helped you sort things out at all? I am kind of curious about how where you are in the process and whatnot, so please do feel free to let us know. Lenacat says, mine says the closed captions aren't available. That is weird. It's probably for the best because sometimes I glance over at the caption bot and I'm reading what it's saying, and first off, there's no punctuation, no stop to any of these sentences. It's just like one long paragraph of where the only punctuation are apostrophes. But I am kind of curious now where the fuck these captions are going if they're not actually being applied to my videos. That is terrible, because I was hoping that would be an accessibility solution, but now I need to look into it further. Lenacat says, I've had ideas for a few scenes that I know I want to move in. So I started to do a zero draft of one of them just to get a feel of I can read. I've had ideas for a few scenes that I know I want to move in, so I decided to do a zero draft of one of them to get a feel for it. And that is a good strategy for sure. I'm hoping that the feel was a positive thing. For sure. I would assume so if you've gotten 334 words into it. So, Oakleaf says, no words, but I did acquire dinner. Acquiring dinner is also very important. I hope it was a delicious dinner. Shelly says, hi. Hello, hello. 165 words here. Definitely struggled through that sprint. Totally a-okay. Some nights are just like that. But 165 words is still 165 words more than what you had, which, as they say. But also, so like, take pride in that at the very least. Also, the night is young, and sometimes you just need to shrug off those cobwebs or like get back into the groove of things for sure. But hello, but yes, hello, welcome to the stream. I can't remember if you've attended one already, but in any case, if you haven't, hello, and it's a pleasure to meet you and welcome to the shenanigans that are Night Rights. If you have, then I am crawling under my desk as we speak. Niket says, yes, good feel so far. Excellent. Also, what I call zero draft is more of an outline for others, I think. I've always been a little bit unclear about what a zero draft is, like, between... I know that it's like a cross between an outline and a first draft, where you're literally just fast drafting, essentially. Like, you are full tilt, diving into a blank document and putting in as much detail as you feel like should go in, but it's like there are periods where where you're just like, I only feel like writing a piece of dialogues or in script format, so I'm doing that, or I am putting brackets and jotting down the scene description instead of actually writing it, and that is fine as well. And you might even be like, well, I actually do feel like writing a scene, so here's a very, very rough sketch of a scene, that kind of thing. But, where's the line between that and just doing a really detailed outline, you know what I mean? But if you fall more on the it's more of an outline side of things, that is still very valid. You are still making progress. Oakley says, to me, zero draft is a kind of name for first draft speedwriting without editing. Lincoln says, yeah, that's pretty much how I do it. Oakley says, I don't personally ever leave things out of brackets by that's very much my personal style. I know if I leave brackets, I'll forget what was supposed to go there. See, I leave brackets whenever I'm doing like a very loose zero draft. But the thing about me is I am very much an overwriter, as draft 3 should probably tell you. So when I have brackets, it is actually 4 paragraphs of text. And the bracket, that is just detailing exactly how the scene should go. Sans actual dialogue or decent description. So I never forget, but then I go back through it and I look at the zero draft and I'm like, what the fuck was I actually thinking? This does not actually make sense in context. I'm throwing out the entire scene. Nika said, I meant I agreed more with Jax at the time. These chats are confusing. Yeah, I'm so sorry. I also don't know the time delay between when I get the chats and when you get the chats. So, like I said, but it's still sort of the same. I think, yeah, I totally get what you mean, though. It's the entire concept that it's the halfway point between an outline and your actual first draft, where you're just sort of like, the idea is that you're going based off of vibes, what you're willing to do for a scene. And like, let's say you have a brief sketch of the plot beats. So you're like, okay, so this is point A. I need to get to point B. Here is a very loose collection of things that I need to get to point B. But I don't feel like, don't feel like writing these little bits I do feel like writing these little bits, and I only feel like actually writing out the dialogue for this bit. So you have like essentially you are a bull charging through from point A to point B, and in the process you are only scribbling down what you feel like actually writing to get to point B. But I am also an overwriter, as I said, so that might actually be too much detail for draft 0. Like, I did hear about people doing draft 0s, and they're like, oh yeah, I got it done in like 3 days, and it's only like 30,000 words. I'm like, do you want to know how long? Yes. Do you want to know how long the Nameless Songs draft 0 was? Because it does have a draft 0. I wound up calling it a draft 1 though at the very end before I started into draft 2. Because of this, the Nameless Songs draft 0 was 60,000 words. I overshot it. So that's what I mean when I say I don't entirely know if I fully understand the concept of what a draft 0 is, because I did a draft 0. I feel like I did one incorrectly. Oakleaf says, I basically write as if I'm telling myself a story, so I'm reading oh, I can read, totally. I basically write as if I'm telling myself a story, like I'm reading to myself. So everything has to be there, even if it's not very good yet. I am also a pantser who doesn't outline, so everything is potentially important later. I build it as I go. So leaving things out today means I don't have it to build on next week. That makes a lot of sense for sure. Naked says the first draft 0 of this one I think was about 15k with just the one POV, haha. Oakley says stares at my 170k 0 first draft. Huh, okay, maybe I used that term right. That's terrifying. I'd hate to say it, but I feel like that's entire series if you were doing a first draft that way. Like, I don't know, like, speaking as a professional editor who is, like, doing all the studying on while trying to wrangle book into marketable format, I have read stories of editors who would tell authors that once they got to 125, they should probably consider chopping it up into multiple books. Most famously was Tamsin Muir, by the way. However, I'm sorry, I completely butchered that name, but you know how, like, Alecto the Ninth was supposed to be the third and final book of the Locked Tomb series? There's a reason why it's the fourth book now. Lena Ket says, to be fair, this was originally meant to be a novella and is now a full novel. That's fair. I think I have one like that too. Always the Bridesmaid, which you would know because you were on my Tumblr, but I've just recently brought it up for the first time to Blue Sky users. But yes, that was a novella, and it's on the back burner waiting to be resumed and turned into a proper novel someday. Oakleaf says, I think 170k is just a whole first draft at that point, even though I'm zero drafting in the sense that I'm going in with no outline. Love when a novella expands, right? Like, it's I don't know, personally I kind of feel proud of my little novella that's going to be turned into a full novel, because like, you're watching an idea that started off as just like a silly little thing that was only supposed to be short, and it's blossoming and unfurling into this fully developed world. It's like, when you go from small to big, it's like you're watching a world develop around it, and it's so satisfying to watch that process for sure. Leaka says, I usually have a very, very loose outline, but I need to flesh things out to see the story better. I'm a plantster. Also a valid, like, all these are valid approaches for sure. And I also appreciate the fact that, you know, we are acknowledging that there are valid approaches. Because I remember back in the day, like, you know, people would tout their process as the process, all caps. But we understand now that, you know, people work differently. Some people are pantsers who write 170 word novels and then trim it down. Other people are planters who go in with stuff kind of half there, but onto development. And other people are over planners who somehow overshoot things anyway and really go whole hog on what is most definitely just the outline, and then they work up to things and then have to trim it back down, and it's sad. I just made myself sad with how much I have to edit still. But anyway, Leoncat says, I'm proud of my one thing I managed to keep as a novella, though. This is the 5th book in my series now. I am proud of you as well. I am proud of your little novella for being stubborn and being like, this is all the story that I need to cover. Thank you. And Oakleaf says, I love talking process because people have such different ways of getting to the same ultimate goal, right? Like, that's the other thing. When you get into writing communities, like, sometimes if you enter into echo chambers, like, everybody is talking about, you know, I did this, this, and this, and you should too. Like, you get people who are all about, very gung-ho about their own advice, but, like, we're all different people. We all approach the same problem different ways, because what works for some people doesn't always work for everybody else. Like, you know, and it's especially true with writing, which a lot of people don't really understand. I don't mean to say that they don't understand it because that it's art, because they do. They understand that it's art. But it's very easy to forget that because it's an art, the way that you approach it isn't necessarily going to be, like, cut and dry. Like, no two painters approach the same. There are basic techniques, yeah. And you build off of those basic techniques, but, you know, if drawing guidelines isn't working for you and you're just a freehand person, or, I don't know, if you want to use... I don't actually know how visual media works, and I feel like this metaphor is falling flat as I speak into existence. But you get the idea. Like, no two painters have the same exact style. Like, Picasso isn't the same as Van Gogh, and, you know, Van Gogh isn't the same as Frida Kahlo. Like, or Salvador Dali. It's like everybody does things differently. You can study off of one another, but you can't apply the exact techniques that one of them uses and force one of the others to use the same thing. You don't get the same work. But people, for some reason, they think that whenever you put words on a page, all of a sudden, you know, everybody needs to talk about business. Everybody needs to talk about marketing the same way. Everybody needs to talk about words as if the same words need to be used just so. And I don't know. I used to be like one of those hard asses who would tout around, throw around opinions dressed up as facts and shit like that. But it's sort of like, I don't know, when I started actually working as a full-time editor, I'm like, nothing actually matters. We all have different processes, and that's beautiful. There are pantsers, there are plantsers, there are plotters, there are people who write in order, people who write out of order, people who have solid ideas of what to do for 7 books, and people who barely know what to do for 1, and it's all good, for sure. Anyway, back to the chat. Well, 5 books in a series is super impressive. I wholeheartedly agree. Like, I just mentioned all those people who, like, know what they're doing for 7 books, and people who barely know what they're doing for 1, and I might be in that second camp. But, to have the ambition to go after more than 3 books is amazing. I applaud that. It says, I know it's so fun, different processes. Oakleaf says, yeah, my BFF is a meticulous outliner, and I have broken every book I tried to outline. It's fascinating. Another friend stitches non-chronological scenes together, and I have to write completely linearly. It's fascinating to me. Agreed. Like, I have a friend who does the non-chronological scene thing. Like, she has openly said she physically cannot write in order. But she'll get ideas for, like, scenes down the line, and she'll write those, and then go back and fill in the blanks. And I'm like, how, though? Like, you have a definite plot. This is not a cozy fantasy where it's all vibes and loose plot. This is plot with a P, and yet it works. And I applaud that. Like, let's applaud all the different approaches and just understand that the writing world is a beautiful cornucopia of things and ideas and approaches, and it's wonderful. Anyway, I have no idea if that helped anybody, but I sure hope that reassured that everybody that their approaches are valid. Anyway, it is currently 9:17. At 9:20, we can start in on the next sprint. But Naked says, I am actually a bit chaotic. I kind of plan in parts. First, I know story begins here and ends here. Then I break that up into different events parts and plan the parts as I go. That makes sense. Like, you start off with, like, a general framework and then fill in the blanks very loosely. For sure. I get it. I also admire that approach because it's super flexible. Like, you also have a solid idea of the point of your book, and that is something that I am kind of struggling with. But basically, it's like you have the core heart and soul of what you want to do. You have the conflict, you have the beginning, you have the ending, you have that basic skeletal structure, and all the little bits that come off of it are just like support for that structure. And overall, you end up with a stronger book that way. So it's a very valid approach. Granted, again, like, all approaches are valid, including the kind where you don't really have a full structure, but things happen and fall together in place anyway. I'm just saying, like, I would love to have that confidence in my framework. Anyway, 9:19. So, if that makes a ton of sense. I usually get there even if I don't start there. I'll eventually have things I know I want to have happen, but not how to get there. Connecting the dots is the fun. Absolutely. Nick says, I think I heard or read about it being called goalposting. I know where I'm going for the most part, but I don't always know exactly how I'm getting there. I have never heard that term. And that actually is a really good way of putting it. because it is. It's you have set goals for yourself that you need to have the story achieve. But how you get there doesn't matter. It's basically just that you get there. Totally makes sense. Anyway, let's start in on the second sprint of the night. 20 minutes are on the clock. So if you're not already in your ducks, get back to them. We're going to take a deep breath and settle in. And we'll see y'all in 20 more minutes. Good luck. And ready, get set, and let's go. Alright, that is sprint number 2. How did we do? Let's see. Another 595 words on my end. This is also the end of the bit that I've actually written this week. It's been a very fucking busy week. A lot of work, stuff to do every single evening. So I admit, though I've tried to write every night in my little journal, it's not as much as I was hoping. We're getting there, though. This is shaping up to be more than one scene, though, so we'll see how it goes. Leonket says 208, finished that one scene, 0 draft. Excellent, excellent. Congratulations on finishing that scene. I was just checking my notifications. In Final Fantasy, I'm building a house I'm designing the interior of a house for a friend of mine, and she just messaged me and said that she liked it, and I'm really glad. I feel very proud, and admittedly, that is part of where my time went this week. I like doing interior design work. I'm not good enough to do I mean, I can float objects, but I hate doing it because it's so finicky, but I'm also not creative enough to blend objects together all that well. I'm just learning, but I take pride in doing it. I don't know, I like doing all that artistic designy stuff. I am terrible at actually creating ideas. Unless they're on paper, but you give me a bunch of things to throw together and I make them pretty. I've gotten compliments on my mood boards, I've gotten compliments on my interior design. It's all fun, just slapping things together. Okay, says got called away, but I'm back. Welcome back. I'm sure at some point you will be able to do a sprint because if I recall correctly, the last sprint was dinner. Oakleaf also says, bonus cat came with me now. Hello, kitty. Oakleaf says, ooh, cool, interior design is fun. It is. Especially if it's game stuff. And I will say this, Final Fantasy's housing system, its interior design, it's fun, but really annoying because it's also very finicky. And the camera hates you. whenever you're doing detail work. But so it's not like The Sims where you get to do all kinds of crazy stuff, but it is very fun. I highly recommend it. If you ever get Final Fantasy, there is plenty of housing spaces on Dynamis. Also, please fucking inhabit Dynamis, people. Like, I am advertising people to go onto Dynamis because the roulettes suck. More people need to be on Dynamis. But anyway. Chili says 228 this time. I'm trying the shitty first draft method and it took some pressure off. That also explains why it's probably difficult for you, because when you're, although like it's not easy to do any draft, I kind of feel like if you're starting from scratch, it's always difficult to like get all of your to get through the entire thing, because you're generating all of those ideas, you know what I mean? Like, so especially if you're doing like the shitty first draft method, the draft zero method, the stuff where you're like, I don't have a super detailed outline like we were talking about a moment ago, but like when it's basically a blank document and they're like, well, fuck, I need to actually write the scene, or I need to actually have some kind of, like, I have nothing to build off of. I have no foundation. There's no scene here. There must be words first. And it's fun, but I can understand also, like, you get a massive pass for the entire, I only have 200 words during the sprint. Like, that is impressive that you are able to do that in such a short amount of time. Like, I love writing, don't get me wrong, but I also understand all the memes where it's sort of like writing is painful, because at some points, like, writing is painful. You have to put your thoughts into words and then put words onto page in ways that make mental pictures in somebody else's head. And that is very difficult to do. It is also very tedious sometimes, especially when you're not at the parts that you actually do want to write. Leocat says, writing is hard and takes forever. Yes. It takes so long, man. I have been working on this one work in progress since 2022 and it's still not done. I do not understand how some people on, like, it's the end of the year, right? So, like, people on Blue Sky, like, the self-publishing parts of it are like, yeah, here's my 2024 wrap-up. I wrote 20 books. I'm like, what the fuck? I mean, and they're decently reviewed books too. Like, I get like if you don't give yourself enough time to develop your ideas, they don't necessarily come out well. And there's that whole adage about sometimes it's quality, it's quantity over quality and that kind of thing. But like, I wouldn't say that any of these books are bad or anything like that. People are picking them up, enjoying them, and reading them and enjoying them. But I also kind of like envy that whoever's able to do that, because like what that says to me is that, number one, you have a lot of ambition, and I wish I had ambition. Like, I haven't had ambition since like the late 90s. Yeah. I was in single digits in the late 90s, so there's that, first off. Second off, it tells me that you have the time and the energy, because energy is a different thing from ambition. You have energy to do all of this. And, of course, that you have time. Because, like, I'm fucking overworked at my job. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, today I did, like, all these different tasks. Like, 7 web updates, which doesn't sound like too much, but these were fucking tedious. Like, they'll take me about 10 to 15 minutes each to do. But I was also like compiling reports and processing or running Excel sheets through macros in order to clean them up to send on these reports. I was doing that. I was fixing all these web issues when our website lives in like 7 different places. I was hashing out an entire process that I thought was already hashed out, but apparently it was not. And meanwhile, everybody's like slacking me all kinds of things, like slacking me that I hadn't submitted my PTO correctly, even though we have 3 different ways of submitting PTO. As in, you have to submit it 3 times, and this should be emblematic of the rest of the company. I had somebody reminding me of the web requests that are sitting in my folder assigned to me already. I've had people reminding me of stuff to do when it was assigned to me as Asana and flagged with the priority. It's like, at the end of the day, and I have to stay like a half an hour extra every day because like my lunch break isn't counted towards my time, and I have to log 8 hours because it's that kind of company. So at the end of the day, it's like, I'm wiped. And I know that's a lot of complaining on a social media outlet about it, but it's like, it is a lot to do. And at the end of the day, I just never have the energy to do it, to do much of anything except for like vegetate. It's not until like 3 in the morning do I actually recover enough energy to actually write, and that's why I do 3 a.m. writing sessions. And that's ignoring all the other things I have to do, like chores and errands and whatnot. And it's quite a bit. And sometimes I work weekends. I don't have time on weekends anymore, or as much as I used to. But even when I was like working as an editor elsewhere, it's like, it was difficult because like, then I'd have actual manuscripts to run through. So long story short is like, I have not yet found the dream job that would let me have the energy that I needed to pursue my dream, or the financial stability. But, you know, eventually. But I also envy people who do put out like 20 books a year, because they do. That's the end result of that. They do. Same with the people who can like afford very fancy self-pub packages, like very fancy covers, and they go off to book signings and whatnot, because that tells me also that they have the time and energy and money to do that. And it's like, the struggle, man, the struggle. Anyway. It says, sounds like you might be following a friend of mine. His goal this year was to write 1 million words. Pretty sure he's going to manage. Probably, but I'm thinking like, but there were definitely like more than one person on Blue Sky who was like, by the way, this is my wrap up. Here are my 20 books. And it's like, what the fuck? Oakleaf says, I've written 3 books this year, but they're all first drafts, and also this is the most I've ever written in a single year. I just have nothing else to do because chronic illness, lol. Bro, ambition is overrated. My ambition... Also, I will say this though. True, those people who are on Blue Sky who are talking about books may have been talking about first drafts. I know that there's this one person... No, actually, Indie Book Spotlight keeps on advertising all their books, so it's like, that's not necessarily the full year. But one person at least had definitely been like, yeah, I put out 25 books this year. Which in the self-publishing market, I have to hand it to them. Like, if you flood the market, yeah, then people will actually buy your book. So there's some strategy in that, and I have heard whispers of this in the self-publishing circle, which is part of the reason why I do not want to self-publish it right away. But basically, like, you essentially have to do something called writing to market. And that means a couple of different things. Number one, obviously, it means what most people say, which is you're writing what's trendy and you're writing a book with the intent on selling it, essentially. So there's that. The other thing is you are putting out a large quantity of books in a year, at least like 1 or 2, because you need to keep up with a certain pace. You need to stay relevant. If you stop producing, then you fall behind in relevancy. People only care about you when you're producing books. Or at least that is true in some communities and platforms. That was certainly true on Brightflare, for example. Like, you stopped being relevant if you stopped producing. So, I understand why people do that, but I also cannot physically do that myself. But continuing on, Oakleaf also says, bro, ambition is overrated. My ambition is just to be healthy and content. Fair enough, yeah. Personally, my ambition is to put out books just to see what would happen. And then after that, regardless of whether or not the books I have in mind sell, I'll be like, well, I checked that off my list. I don't have any more ambitions whatsoever. I'm just gonna vibe. Oakleaf says, no, that's too much work. That's so stressful. It is. I've been trying to get out of it for a bit. I've also tried pushing back, but it's not a great workplace to do so. So, like, I just grin and bear it for the most part until I snap. It's been a year, let's just say. So there's that. Naked says, full-time work is really, really draining. Finding the balance is difficult for sure. For sure. I agree. I don't know how people with full-on full-time jobs manage it, to be honest, because they exist. Self-published writers who have full-time jobs, and I applaud that. I don't know how they do it. I want that energy. Oakleaf says 1 million words. Gaspy, Smiley. I've maybe written 1 million words in my entire life. Total, holy moly. How long and how well edited are 25 books though? And are they working full time at the same time? Not shade, just that those factors make difference. The demand to grind is so awful. To the 25 books, absolutely. Like, I don't want to say quantity over quality. I have not actually bought this person's books, so I can't really say for certain. I just kind of I wish them the best of luck. I always wish all the writers the best of luck. But I'll admit I don't often read self-published books for a reason. That would be the reason. Because, when you're self-published, you don't have... I mean, there are definitely terribly written trade-published titles as well. Don't get me wrong. I have read the terribly written trade-published titles. I can name you some terribly written trade-published titles. By the way, never fucking read the Chronicles of Gore. That was the first book series I had to read as a wee bitty intern in my early days of publishing. It's fucking page after page of misogyny and really shitty 80s fantasy tropes and power fantasies. It's like Conan the Barbarian. If Conan the Barbarian believed in the tradwife phenomenon, it was bad. Though, technically it was alright. I'll give it that. I have also read bad, actually published books. One of my ex-clients is a publisher that took stuff from Royal Road, and morally, gore is worse. But technically, gore is better. Let's just put it that way. And they're all on the same level of power fantasy. I have seen shit in my time working in the publishing industry, in other words. It's been a roller coaster. My entire career has been a roller coaster. I don't know how there are 20-year-olds who work for the Big Five and are content. Not that I was working for a Big Five, but what it seems like when you're working for an indie publisher, or primarily the indie scene, it is, it's fun and a roller coaster. Granted, I don't envy the people who work for the Big Five, by the way. I had recently seen a post on one of the social medias about how Hachette, which is a Big Five publisher, is withholding paychecks. The entire industry is fucking in shambles. But anyway, the point is, I don't know how well edited or well written the 25 self-published books are. I will say this, I have definitely read and written. I'll be fair to myself. I have written pretty bad, shittily published work. No, I'm kidding. I have definitely read really badly edited self-published books, for sure. I've also read, and it feels sometimes like that's the majority of the self-published stuff that I read. I'd hate to say it. I don't know what it is, but I do know what it is. It's like it's a quantity thing. Like when you have the ease of a platform, when a platform opens up and becomes accessible to all, you end up with a huge variety of titles, a huge variety of content, and not all of it is going to be good. Granted, there are some that are going to be great. I have definitely read self-published books that were fucking amazing, and I will keep forever. And then I've read a lot of books that just fell flat in execution, that were bizarre, that were uncomfortable reads in the sense that you can tell it was somebody's fetish. A lot of mediocre erotica, and so on and so forth. But like I said, I've also read really good self-published novels as well. It's just that the number is far less than the number of really bad stuff. But yeah, I don't know which side of the divide the 25 books fall on. And I won't pretend that I know and say I'm following them. Of course it's good. It's definitely a thing that you might want to look at, that I just say I don't have any knowledge of. And now I kind of feel bad because I feel like I need to read all of my mutuals books at some point, and I will. I just need more time. I have a TBR that is absolutely disgusting, and I go through books at a rate of 1 every 6 months. I need to improve that, and I will eventually when things calm down, I'm sure. Oakleaf says the demand grind is so awful. It really is. I feel like I'd be saying something that everybody would agree with, but like, writers should be allowed to write and do so at their own pace and develop their own stories at a reasonable rate and not have to put out a book a year slapped together and undercooked just to stay relevant in the market. Again, that is something that literally every writer agrees with. Like, I'm not even generalizing. Every single person would like to not work as much, and everybody wants to put out something that they're proud of, not like something that they shat out in 2 months, so like I can safely say that everybody agrees with that notion. Leoncat says, a lot of the social media of popular books I've been reading have been unfortunately just a bunch of trope scenes looped together with candy floss, and it's not even just a phenomenon for self-pub. So now, if I see something that's popular, I kind of grimace. Yeah, basically, I want to blame Book Talk for this. I know it's a trend to blame Book Talk, and I also know that the trend started before Book Talk. But I feel like it is very much a social media landscape where, in order to stay relevant, books have turned into marketing packages. And actually movies too, because have you ever noticed that besides A24, who's putting out what these days? You know what I mean? Like, everything is a basket of tropes. And this is why I fucking hated Marvel, to be honest with you, because it's just the same thing over and over again. And I'm sorry to people who enjoy Marvel, but like, to me, that's what it is. It's like, oh, you put out another superhero movie full of catchphrases, and now all superhero movies are catchphrases, and now every studio is basically doing superhero movies. And it's the same thing with books. It's the same thing with mainstream video games. It's the same thing with basically everything. It's like the same thing over and over and over again. And produced very quickly and produced at a questionable level of quality. And people consume this and eat it up. So it's sort of like, what can you say anymore? You can, as an artist, want to put out the things that you feel proud of and that you feel passionate behind and that you've put your heart and soul into. But consumers essentially dictate how the market will go, and consumers demand very specific things out of their books, and it's uncomfortable. And not just because, like, one of the things that they demand is sex, like spicy scenes. Like, why? But anyway, let's see. Wolff says, yeah, I've noticed that too. Honestly, I'm very jaded about current trad pub, especially YA. Yeah, the whole industry is a mess. I respect everyone who's still trying to get published, but I'm personally glad I got out when I did. Self-pub is like AO3, lots and lots of slop, and then some things that will change your life. Yeah, basically. Like, everything that was just said is true. I'm still in pub, both professionally and in terms of a hobby. In terms of a hobby, like, I've dreamed of getting published since I was like 14. And I know it's kind of silly to hang on to your childhood dreams, but it's sort of like when everything else that you kind of worked for goes sideways, it's almost like a comfort to see one thing that you were hoping would go right, you know? Like, things have not been going well for me since I reached adulthood, and probably before then too. So it's sort of like, I am personally still in it, and the main reason why is because I want to be able to see it through, not to get into depression posting. But like, I am proud of my books. I do want to see them in book form. I want to put them into other people's hands. I want to delight in seeing how they react to it. But also, one of the biggest driving factors of pursuing that dream is the fact that I feel like I need to. just in general. And professionally, the only reason why I'm still considering going back into publishing is because when you're a publishing professional, your skill set is unfortunately extremely and infamously limited, because you have gained specialized skills that have been replaced by AI that literally nobody else asks for, so therefore you're stuck. So I'm still fucking in it because I have not yet figured out how to translate my skill set into a job that doesn't make me want to shoot myself in the face, which is what this job was supposed to be able to do. But I want to, yeah. My soul has been sucked out of my face with a vacuum cleaner. Anyway. But yeah, also self-pub is like AO3, like right down to the entire emphasis on ship wars. Lena Kitt says, for the past fiction phenomena, exactly. That's what it is basically with the entire writing to market scene. Oakleaf says 100% content over creativity. Essentially, yes. That is the social media content creation landscape, and it is literally content creation, sadly. As much as people, especially writers, hate being called content creators, you are if you are writing to market. Let's just be real right now. Oakleaf says, I don't think it's silly at all to want your dreams. I wish the industry was still one I wanted to get into. I wish I still had that dream. Maybe one day things will improve and I'll try again. I hope so too. I feel like we're at the cusp of some kind of change. I feel like people are getting angry for the right reasons. So the optimist in me, as tiny and new of a seedling that is, that optimist is saying things are going to get better. Like, I feel like we've seen the abyss as a society, and the only way to go is up. But at the same time, I also understand that you can never trust people to not find ways to dig the hole deeper. So I hope it gets better. Like, I know that on the publishing side of things, like with the publishing industry in particular, it's currently on fire. When you have the big five going through constant layoffs and doing things like withholding paychecks for a solid month, then that's not sustainable. Downside is a lot of them are too big to fail. Like, the only reason why the publishing industry isn't considered a monopoly is because there are 5 companies all vying to become a single monopoly, not just fucking one. So it is skirting the line. All fucking 5 of them are skirting the line. And this is also why Simon & Schuster and Penguin never actually managed to go through with that merger they were talking about. Because a judge was like, the fuck you won't. That violates several trade agreements. Or several of our holy golden laws of business. You are not allowed to do that. So, fun fact there, if you didn't know, but yes, a couple years back, 2 of the big 5, the largest publishing companies in the entire world, were in talks to do a merge. And if they did, then what is already a huge chunk of the publishing industry would suddenly fall under 4 companies. 2 of the largest of which would have become 1. It would have been a fucking nightmare. But, I also feel like the way things are going is not sustainable. So either A, the publishing industry just fucking implodes. Like, I'm talking 1999.com boom explodes. Or, you know, maybe it continues on as is and just continues getting worse. Who knows? Or people finally unionize, or people finally get companies to change through protests and through talking about this stuff and through getting fucking exhausted with being laid off every half year, and we finally demand reform loud enough that reform happens. But like that withholding paycheck stuff, like Hachette had better fucking shape up before it gets a lawsuit on its hands. Because like, yeah, you fuck around with New York, with New York's labor laws, then you find out. Let's just say. It's amazing that they've managed to get away with it for a fucking month, because like New York does not fuck around with labor laws. It just doesn't. Miyaka says, honestly, all this is kinda why I decided to just go ahead and do self-publishing instead of trad, but I've accepted no one ever reading it and making negative money. That is the downside, really. And the negative money is hilariously, unfortunately, real if you wanted to do it quote-unquote properly with like a cover that wasn't drawn by you and with an actual editorial team. Like, that's the downside, is literally you are running your own business, and all of those are business costs, and you have no guarantee of actually turning a profit. So there's that. And that's also part of why I have decided not to do self-publishing right away. The other part is part of the dream that I had when I was 14 is to specifically be traditionally published at some point. But if I do at least one traditional publishing, I have decided to allow myself to do self-publishing. But the first one has to be traditionally published, unless it gets rejected into the ground. Like, and it never gets picked up and stuff like that. But fingers crossed anyway. Oakleaf says, same Lena Ket, but for me, I just write for myself and no one else will read it, but at least I'm having fun. That is a good philosophy to have, for sure. Oakleaf, yeah, and I am so glad that merger didn't happen. Agreed, like, it would have been a fucking nightmare for the publishing industry. Lena Ket says, my actual cover cost a lot. I'd imagine. I've been looking at some of those prices because I was considering doing it for, like, breaking my own rule and just doing it anyway for Always the Bridesmaid. But, yeah. The shitty ones cost, the cheapest, shittiest ones that I was looking at cost like $100 a pop. Those are the shitty covers. Oh, also, Companion Wolf said, sorry, I vanished. I finished my drink and then slammed out a lyric game in a haze. I high-five you there. Oakleaf says, this BS is happening across the board too. Publishing, animation, game dev, acting, things are breaking in the name of profit, and people are starting to push back. The SAG-AFTRA and voice actors strikes give me hope. They gave me hope too. It needs to transfer over into book publishing for sure, because, like, it's nightmarish what my peers make for, take a swing at what the starting salary for Scholastic, like, everybody grew up with Scholastic, right? Like, those are the Magic School Bus books, the Goosebumps books, literally every book that you've ever read as an elementary school. Yeah, as an elementary school student. Like, even if you were in the 80s, 90s, that kind of thing, you had the Babysitters Club's book. You know what Scholastic is. It was your fucking childhood. They make $45,000 a year. That sounds like a lot until you realize that Scholastic is headquartered in New York City and exclusively is hybrid. The average rent for a New York studio is about $1,700 to $1,800 a month. That $45,000 did not include taxes or food. A box of cereal on the island of Manhattan costs $8. So the people who put together your childhood, they can't afford to live here. And I have always been angry about that. Granted, when the people who made your childhood, rent and cost of living were somewhat better in New York and somewhat more aligned with the actual pay structure. It didn't get really bad until the 2000s, even though Reagan had started this shitstorm. But yeah. Companion Wolf says, "Go unions, go. I love you, unions. Amen." Shockingly, not every one of the big five is actually unionized. Penguin certainly isn't. In fact, I'm pretty sure that the only one that has an actual union is HarperCollins, the big famous one that has gone on strike more than once in 2021, 2022. That's the only union that I've heard of. There are editor guilds, but like no actual company unions for the most part. That's not counting like the outlier booksellers. The Strand, of course, has a union and whatnot, but yeah. Lena Cat says, "I may have gotten my dream artist though, who recently illustrated a cover for a tour release." That is awesome. Hold on to that person. And also, worth it. Worth the fucking money. Your book is going to fucking look awesome. I applaud it. Companion Wolf says, $8 for cereal is evil. It really is. Now, to be fair, it is kind of like name brand cereal. So if you're hankering for some Cocoa Puffs, that's $8. And I am dead serious. It is fucking $8 unless it's on sale. Occasionally, like if you're out in like Queens, the sale will bring it down to like $4 a box, but you have to buy a batch of like 3 or 4 in order to get the $4 Cocoa Puffs. Oakleaf says only 40,000, maybe good before but awful now. It's actually 45,000. I know this because I've interviewed there, and that is what they offered me as a starting. That is actually an entry level for a lot of positions in the editorial range in New York City. Some will go over, some will go under. There's a company called Wiley. It's technically a little bit out in New Jersey, but it's still metro area, and you're still paying New York prices. I've seen listings over there for like 30,000. I'm like, who the fuck are you living with? Like, are you just assuming that your editors are living with your parents? And yes, I am fucking calling Wiley out now. But very rarely do the big name publishers go over. Like, it's usually the indies and the academics that go over, where you'll see 60,000 as like base, 70,000 if they're really good and really awesome. But generally speaking, like all the big name publishers will have you starting out in the $45,000 to $50,000 range. Lena Ket says 40,000 seems right. I actually have a lot of people that ask me why I work the job I do, but I make more in retail than I did working at a university. Basically, yeah. I believe that 100%. stupid because, like, these are positions that you went to college for. These are positions that you've trained for. These are positions that are literally desk jobs in cubicles, and you assume that they would be paying more than retail, and yet they're not. I also kind of want a side shout out, a side call out actually. The fact that this is a lot of industries in New York City for some reason. Like, a New York City worker, like somebody who actually works for the city, which I've also looked into because I was desperate and started taking city exams. A lot of those positions start you off at $40,000 as well. Usually less. So like a city worker will make like $40,000 exactly. A city worker might even make $30,000. I once interviewed for 911 dispatch, like a 911 dispatch position, and I went to the interview, and I came home and immediately broke down. There were two reasons why I did that. Number one is the interview was basically like, you will basically live and breathe 911 dispatch. You will hear some shit, you will take some shit, you will listen to some shit, you will have to act very calmly and very rationally. You cannot make a mistake ever, and you will never get, when you start off, you will never get free nights and weekends. You are always on call, and you are guaranteed to get the shitty hours out in the middle of the really bad, the really shitty dispatch locations. Like, for example, one possible location that they were saying was, oh, you're going to go into the Bronx in the ghetto, and you're going to work in essentially a warehouse over there. And you're going to take these calls, and they are going to be super distressing, and you're just going to have to work through it. The recruiter that I was also sitting down at, because they also had a portion where it was like one-on-one recruiting, and I had already made the decision, nope, this is not for me. I was sitting in front of her, and she was like, yeah, it's no problem. We will walk you through everything that you need to know. Don't worry, you're in good hands. Like, she was trying to reassure me, but I was like, yeah, you put me with this, you have this portion of the interview because you don't want to scare people away, but I'm already fucking scared away. So there's that. That entire thing. Do you want to know how much a 911 dispatch operator in New York City earns by default? This was the other reason why I immediately went home, had a breakdown, and went, nope, I'm not taking this job. They make $31,000 a year. Like, I want to support 911 dispatchers. Like, they're not just working for the cops. But considering the fact that the 911 dispatch department works underneath the NYPD, I'm just going to say ACAB. Or, like, what the fuck? Like, if you have city workers, pay them better. Pay them livable wages. Fuck's sake, New York. Jax Wolff says, should I get more hot chocolate? Also, I am trying to follow this conversation, but my brain isn't brain. So imagine me sitting here nodding pleasantly because that's what I'm doing. I'm so sorry. I'm also rambling. It is well past time for the next sprint, but basically it's like, I think we've been through enough of these night rides to know that if you can get Jax to talk about communism and socialism and why capitalism sucks, Jax will talk about why capitalism sucks in great detail and why working in publishing radicalized them. Jax Wolff says your ramble makes me smile. But yeah, it's like, I feel for the working person, really. Like, I'm one of them, obviously, and don't even ask me how much I'm making. But, like, it's nightmarish what we put people through, and we don't pay them. Like, the 911 dispatch position did at least offer some decent benefits. Like, you got taken care of if you worked for the city, don't get me wrong, but you got taken care of in the sense that you never had to worry about retirement after a few years because you had pension. You had decent health insurance because it was through the city. You had decent insurance all around, really. But payment, like, you were living poverty wages, and you're a fucking 911 dispatch. But yeah, then you have my colleagues in publishing, and we get jack shit. Like, I'm just gonna say it outright. Like, when I was working publishing, I had only ever had United Healthcare. That's the level of fucked we were. Paid and given the shittiest health insurance because cheapness. Okay, says Cripes, I make almost that in a dead-end corporate admin job where I thought I was underpaid, shaking my damn head. Just pay people, right? But, like, payment would cut into profits. So, like, I don't even know what New York's excuse is, actually, because, like, there's no profits. You are working for the city. Like, what was their excuse? And, but then again, corruption is a tradition in New York City's government, so, like, I think I know where the money's going. There's a fucking scandal right now that's telling you where the money of the current office is going. And believe me, it wasn't that much better with de Blasio. Manuel says, Jax talks about how capitalism sucks. Counter is now reset to 0. This is suggest we hate capitalism in this house. Yeah. I feel like it's... I was good last stream, now that I think about it. I'm pretty sure it was good last stream. I don't even remember what we talked about last stream. I should not say that. But, yeah. Yeah. I just wish that things are better. I hope that things do get better. Like I said, we have seen the abyss, and there's one of two ways this can go. It's either we can finally wake up and climb out of the abyss, or we can, as humans are wont to do, take a look at the abyss and go, that abyss can be deeper, and then crawl in with shovels. But the optimist in me hopes that it's the first thing. Oakleaf says, yeah, guaranteed someone is making profit. It's just not us. Yeah. Yeah, if it's not like CEOs and shareholders, it's usually a politician, so. Oakleaf says, we heart Spacey Jax. Thank you. Hey, fun fact, the caption module that I'm using that doesn't actually caption my videos has just subtitled that as Spacey Jackson, as in Michael Jackson, but in space, I guess. Anyway, it is currently 10:33, so we should actually get ready for the final sprint of the night. I finished actually transcribing, so I might actually do the last thing on my list, which is to prepare for Whip Pit. If you don't know, hopefully you do know, because if you go on Blue Sky, there are things called pitch events now. They have been carried over from Shitter, however you want to call it. They are basically like large-scale writing events where you pitch your story in a tag, and people come in, they like, reblog, interact with you. You gain more followers that way, and you also have the potential to gain the attention of a literary agent or publisher. Whippit, WIPPIT, is happening technically at midnight, so we have only a couple of hours to throw something together. But it's happening all day tomorrow at the tag Whip It. And it is for works in progress, any works in progress whatsoever. And if you're on Blue Sky, I highly encourage you to do it. If you're not on Blue Sky, I highly encourage you to get on Blue Sky, because that is where all the raiders, all the cool people are these days. Oakleaf says Spacey Jackson, your new pen name. It might as well be. I mean, anyway, Lena Cat says, I was supposed to go and explore B Sky again on my vacation, but I did not have the social battery. It's overwhelming, for sure. Personally, I interact with it the way that I interacted with Tumblr. Like, I will follow a handful of people and actually respond to their posts regularly. But more often than not, I am just participating in all these little events and interacting during them. And then I go silent for long periods of time, and then just like shotgun entire threads of shit onto my profile, then go back into hibernation until something else happens. Or just like talk to myself and repost things that look interesting, that kind of thing. But it's a lot to do at once, especially since it's super active and it doesn't quite have the same vibe as Tumblr. But for sure, pitch events are definitely a good way to dip your toes in and actually start interacting with the community. So for sure, Whip It is, again, tomorrow's event, but there are more than that. And if you want to know more, I routinely blog or repost the schedule of events that Blue Pit puts up. Blue Pit is another pitch event. It's happening in January. But there's also going to be Holly Pit, which is happening, I think Sunday is Holly Pit, which is a holiday-themed pitch event. There is a couple of pitch events also happening in January as well. If you're into Whip Snips, you might have seen that on Tumblr. Dire Rates was actually inspired to do Whip Snips based on an event on Twitter. Or at least that's what I gathered, because the Twitter one happened first. But it's the same concept. You share snippets of writing based on the word of the day. But they're doing their own pitch event. That's happening in January. But you know, like, just keep on following the Blue Sky, and I will take you by the hand and guide you to pitch events. Don't worry, because I am hardcore doing them. Like I said, that is a good way to meet literary agents, and as somebody who's trying to get into traditional publishing and who's very close to finishing a manuscript, I'm hardcore doing all of the professional writer things. So take my hand and we shall journey into the pitch events together. But anyway, it is now 10:38. There are 20 minutes on the clock, and we will get started into the next session. The entire point that I'm making here is Scrivener is not going to move on your screen. I am working, though, just not on that. I am going to be switching over to Whip Pit preparation. Whatever you'd guys like to do, you are free to do it. It's the last session of the night, so just make it count and have fun. Anyway, we will get started at 10:40. Luna Cat says, I made another new document that I am pasting in the few finished scenes I have, mixed with 0 drafts, and basically making a mess. Excellent, valid. Keep doing that. And on that note, 20 minutes on the clock. Good luck to all of y'all for this last sprint. And ready, set, and go. Do you mean that, Companion Wolf, when you say the stream is dropping for anyone else, do you mean that nothing's moving? Or do you mean you literally can't see the stream? Well, probably. All right, and that is the end of our final sprint. How did we do? As for me, I have most of the mood board done. I just have to find 2 images and clean it up, and this is basically ready for Whippet, which is cool. And attach like an actual pitch to it. But other than that, you know, we are cooking. We are cooking with gas for sure. I should hopefully be ready by the time Whippet starts. which is an ungodly hour, so I might not actually start right at the start. But how about all of you? Seems like mobile has shenanigans going on. I apologize for that. Not sure how to fix. Companion Wolf says, I'm beginning my nighttime rituals. That is good to hear. Go get some rest for sure. Cut says, my cobbled nest is at 10k. That is very good, for sure, especially since you've just jumped in. I applaud that. Oakleaf says, wrote like 3 paragraphs. It's something. Also, absolutely excellent. I finally managed to write at least. For sure, especially since you were pulled away so often with the other 2 sprints. That is excellent to hear. So yeah, excellent work all around. I'm not going to hold y'all for too much longer because it is 11 o'clock at night on a Friday and I do need to get this done before midnight. Not because I'm jumping in right away. Like, I am going to definitely see who's up and whether or not it's worth it to jump in at midnight as opposed to early morning. But in any case, I still want to get it done, and that'll be a thing. Especially since tomorrow is going to be an event. I am going out to Brooklyn to go do a thing with friends. Which means, obviously, no stream tomorrow. But on Sunday, there's technically a writing webinar that I had signed up for that I might look into. It was free though, so I might even just be like, fuck it. But in any case, if I don't go to it, then normal stream might happen. Keep an eye out on Blue Sky for that. If it does happen and I do go to it, then I might do stream afterwards. Also keep an eye on Blue Sky for that. But it is at 7:30, so it's going to be a little bit tricky. Monday, obviously, no stream. Tuesday, maybe a stream. Tuesday is, of course, not D&D night. So I do have space afterwards, so we'll see. Wednesday, most likely no stream because raid night. Monday and Wednesday, as we all know, are my Final Fantasy raids, and that is very rare social interaction for me, so I do that regularly. But Thursday and Friday are most likely streams because I have been convinced by my coworkers, and the work itself sucks, and we're all under a shit ton of pressure, and everybody's feeling it. But they do actually push me to do self-care. So there is so I had gotten talked into taking a couple of days off before full-on break. So Thursday and Friday will most likely be the last 2 streams of this year. I say that because the week of Christmas and the week after, I am not going to be around because I am going to see my family. And while they do have a space for me, I do have a guest room and I do have Wi-Fi, I am not fucking doing anything that they can walk in on. No, I'm kidding. I'm just going to be focusing on family, restoring, just chilling out, taking inventory, seeing if certain opportunities have panned out by then, and rewriting the book. The rest of TNS, I am going to be handwriting it. So I do have a computer and that I'm taking with me because this is a new apartment and I don't want to, I want to keep it on my person. And I do have a cell phone, so you might see me on Blue Sky, but just because I'm on Blue Sky does not mean that there's going to be a stream. So last week of December, not going to be here, which means that Thursday and Friday, last two stream sessions of this year. So I hope you make it. So to recap, no stream tomorrow, most likely stream Sunday, maybe stream Tuesday. Thursday and Friday are the last streams of the year. So, that all said, I hope that you had plenty of fun tonight, listening to me ramble about salaries again, and talk about process and all that kind of fun things. I do have to hand it to y'all, this was like the most writing related stream we've had in a while. So, yay to all of us. But I hope you guys have an excellent weekend. I hope you guys had fun tonight. I hope you guys have an excellent weekend. And I thank you all for coming in. It's a pleasure to sit here and talk to you and talk at you about all kinds of things and just to chill out and be productive with you. So that said, I will hopefully see y'all on Sunday, if not later on in the week. But otherwise, peace. Good night, everybody.